Namaskar and welcome to SG Global News. From the unveiling of United States Department of Justice's shocking report on the plight of Nicaragua Catholics to Cardinal Pisabella's official Jubilee address underscoring the importance of hope, we have many stories to cover. Lawyer and activist Martha Molina sheds light on the situation faced by Nicaraguan Catholics in her report, Nicaragua, Persecuted Church, published on Wednesday. The report, made with the help of United States Department of Justice, compiles list of attacks against the church under the Ortega government.
As the efforts to silence Nicaraguan Catholics are in full force, a report published by the United States Department of Justice shows that at least 18 buildings owned by the Catholic Church were confiscated by the Ortega administration between the years of 2019 and 2024. According to the sixth installment of Nicaragua, a Persecuted Church by lawyer and researcher Martha Molina, presented this Friday, the regime has closed 4 universities, 2 vocational institutes, 24 media outlets, and 44 non-profit organizations, all linked to the Catholic Church, since the outbreak of the socio-political crisis in April 2018. During the presentation of the report, Molina reminded the attendees of the closure of 1,500 non-profit Catholic organizations by Ortega last August and predicted that the regime would carry out the confiscations of more properties belonging to the church. The report also highlighted that the attacks against the Catholics are at an all-time high since the introduction of the Sandinista rule in 1980. Molina in the report documented at least 1,000 attacks, including physical attacks against the clergy and laymen and the destruction of properties owned by the church. The report also mentioned that around 266 religions have ceased to carry out their pastoral mission in Nicaragua due to the constant harassment from the law enforcement agencies.
A 40-year-old Catholic priest has been shot dead by unknown assailants in Nigeria. The incident, which happened on the day after the Christmas Eve, is the latest in the series of attacks against the Nigerian Christians in recent times.
A Catholic priest from Nigeria was shot dead by unidentified assailants in Ihiala on the day after Christmas. Father Tobias Chukwujekwu Okonkwo was attacked along the Owerri-Onitsha expressway between 7 and 8 p.m. on Thursday. The 40-year-old priest was a pharmacist and served as the priest in charge of Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital in Ihiala. According to a press release from the Catholic Diocese of Nivi, Father Tobias was also the manager of the schools of nursing, midwifery, and medical laboratory affiliated with the hospital. The diocese has requested prayers and holy masses for the deceased priest and informed that funeral arrangements would be communicated in due course. Nigeria remains one of the most dangerous countries for Christians, with more believers killed for their faith there than in any other country worldwide. While persecution has historically been concentrated in the predominantly Muslim northern region, it has increasingly spread to southern states where Christians are the majority. Father Tobias, who was murdered on Thursday, hailed from the southern state of Anambra.
Biden administration approved a bill on Friday that blocks the children of army personnel from obtaining sex change medications. The bill passed on Thursday has been backed by a majority of Democratic legislators.
After withdrawing a proposed law change that would have allowed biological males to compete in women's sports, the Biden administration has once again signed a bill that is considered a significant setback to the left's efforts to redefine gender identity in various legislation. On Wednesday, President Joe Biden signed the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2025, which prohibits the Department of Defense from covering transgender drug prescriptions for minors. The legislation, introduced annually to provide a budget for military spending, was passed in both houses with strong bipartisan support, despite reservations from some Democratic legislators. The law specifically prohibits the Department of Defense and the official healthcare system TRICARE from covering puberty-blocking drugs or hormone therapies for currently serving military personnel, veterans, or their family members. Puberty blockers, a medication that suppresses the production of sex hormones, are reportedly administered to preteen boys by gender rights advocates to feminize them. Before the bill's passage, some Democratic legislators threatened to block the NDAA. However, enough Democrats ultimately backed the legislation to ensure funding for essential military operations in the next fiscal year.
Amidst the ongoing persecution of Christians in sub-Saharan Africa, Burkina Faso, a small landlocked country, is seeing a rise in young Catholic men receiving vocations. A record of 281 seminarians have enrolled in the country's largest seminary.
Burkina Faso, the land of honest men, is a landlocked country in West Africa, once celebrated for its religious cohesion. However, this harmony has been increasingly threatened. Today, hundreds of churches lie abandoned, and many Christians have fled their villages for safer places due to the rise of radical Islamist violence in the country. According to the U.S. Department of State's 2023 report on terrorism, Burkina Faso experienced a 24% increase in deaths related to terrorism compared to 2022. Among Sahelian countries, it topped the charts with more than 7,600 deaths in 2023. Open Doors International reports that Christians, particularly converts from Islam, face some of the most intense persecution. Yet, despite the violence, faith in Burkina Faso is flourishing. The growing number of religious vocations demonstrates the resilience and deep-rooted belief of the Burkinabe people. At St. Peter and St. Paul Seminary of Koshogan in Ouagadougou, the Interdiocesan Philosophy Seminary, 281 seminarians are enrolled for the 2024-2025 academic year, a notable rise from 254 seminarians in 2019-20. Remarkably, 40% of these young men hail from dioceses within the red zones, areas severely affected by terrorism. Father Guy Mukasa Sanon, the seminary's rector, attributes the rise in vocations to good vocations work and the presence of people in their daily lives who witness to the love of Christ in an obvious way. He also noted the ease of awakening vocations in the region where materialism has not yet made a landfall and one doesn't expect anything of God. As Father Guy trains a new generation of priests for service in Burkina Faso and beyond, his vision is clear. Speaking to Aid to the Church in Need, he said, quote, "It is crucial that future priests can give authentic witness to their faith, that they have really been able to meet Christ personally, that the gospel is their food and their passion," end quote. With God as their only inheritance, these young seminarians faithfully dedicate their lives to the service of the Church. Their hearts remain open, their wills resolute as they pursue a calling to be servants of Christ in a troubled yet hopeful land.
The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pizzaballa, addressed the faithful on the occasion of the beginning of the Jubilee year. In his address, Cardinal Pizzaballa underscored the importance of hope and how Catholics all around the world should incorporate these principles, especially in the Jubilee year.
Pier Battista, Cardinal Pizzaballa, Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem and President of the Assembly of the Catholic Ordinaries of the Holy Land, addressed the faithful of the Holy Land on the occasion of the beginning of the Jubilee year, reminding them of the necessity of hope. In his letter to the faithful, Cardinal Pizzaballa explained that Christian hope is not a vague desire for a better future, but rather the fruit of Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection, as well as the gift of the Spirit he has given us. He reflected on the past few years of trials and tribulations in the Holy Land, including the Palestinian question, the pandemic, and the ongoing war. Despite these challenges, he urged the faithful to view them in light of God's Word and the Jubilee year. Cardinal Pizzaballa highlighted that in biblical tradition, the Jubilee year is a time of freedom, forgiveness, reconciliation, peace, and rest. Drawing on the words of Pope Francis from the Bull of Indiction of the Jubilee, he reminded the faithful of the importance of recognizing signs of hope even during difficult historical periods. Among these signs, he mentioned the yearning for peace, the formation of new families, the hospitality of the Christian community, and the witness of priests and religious leaders. The Cardinal also encouraged the faithful to undertake pilgrimages to key locations in the Holy Land: Nazareth, where hope was made flesh in Mary's womb; Bethlehem, where hope had the face of a child; and Jerusalem, where hope was poured forth as gratuitous and infinite love. He concluded his letter with a prayer for hope. Pope Francis has proclaimed 2025 as a holy year. By opening the Holy Door at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome on December 24th, he officially inaugurated the Jubilee celebrations. Cardinal Pizzaballa announced that the Catholic Ordinaries of the Holy Land, which includes the dioceses of Jerusalem, Palestine, Israel, Jordan, and Cyprus, would open the Jubilee with a solemn celebration at the Basilica of the Annunciation in Nazareth on December 29th.
That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.